guys, so I'm going to show you my Sephora recommendations. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is some skin prep, as well as anything I do pretty much pre-makeup step, and that includes my brows, so let's get into it. So I wanted to start with my Glow Recipe recommendations first. So one of the things I absolutely love is the Watermelon Glow Pink Juice Moisturizer. I love to apply this before the makeup or whenever my skin is feeling a little bit more on the dry side. And if it's not that one, I like to also go in with the Plum Plump Hyaluronic Cream if I want a little bit more of a thicker consistency. But this one I kind of prefer to put more so at night versus sometimes below makeup, but sometimes I swap them out. And then I love to go in with the Plum Plump Hyaluronic Serum, again, to hydrate the skin, or the Strawberry Smooth BHA HA Salicylic Serum. So it really is dependent on the day. What I'm feeling that day, I kind of switch them out, interchangeably. The other serum I love is the Charlotte Tilbury Niacinamide Crystal Elixir. What's lotion think? This writing is literally already coming. I've used this a handful of times. I've used like 3 times, and it's already, the writing is already coming off. This is like $75. That should not be happening. But otherwise, I really do love this. This creates such a beautiful glow, especially under this is perfect serum, I feel like, to use below the makeup especially. It makes the skin look so glowy and beautiful. If I'm not looking for hydration, I'm just looking for like a glow on the skin, but I want my skin to be a little bit more matte, but I still want that like glowiness. The One Size base thinner is super beautiful as a glow from underneath, but also mixing this in with the foundation, it doesn't mess up the formula, and it literally will take any matte foundation and make it much more light coverage. So this is perfect if you don't want to buy another foundation and you want to make it a little bit less coverage. So this is perfect for that. And then the other one I like to go in with is the face base. This one is the one I actually use as a primer, because even though it's like more of like a moisturizer, it's super lovely under the makeup as well. As for my like other non-negotiables, the Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer is the best eyeshadow primer in the market, in my humbling opinion. It's the only thing that gets rid of these dark circles, and I use this even when I'm not wearing eyeshadow. The Rare Beauty eye brightener is my go-to eye brightener. I wear this any single time I want to wear a concealer that just doesn't have enough coverage, or even if it has enough coverage, I still like to go in with this, because as you can see, I have very dark under eye circles, and this is perfect, especially if I don't feel like going in with a color corrector, because sometimes it's hard to cover up a color corrector, so I feel like this is a better option. And it's super hydrating under the eyes as well, but make sure you blend this in before you go over it with your concealer. As for brow products, the Rare Beauty Brow Gel is amazing. This will make your brows last the entire day. It does such a great job at pushing up the brows, and it doesn't feel hard or like super, you know what I mean? But it does a perfect job at like pushing up the brows. I will say I do have to go in with a brow pencil, because when I do push up my brows, this does show the sparse areas a little, because again, it has no color. So my go-to brow pencil is the Rare Beauty one as well. Nothing too special. I mean, it's a little bit of a thicker brow, but and there's this blue on the other end. But this is still super lovely, and it's my go-to combo for the brows. The next category for the Sephora sale that I want to discuss is eyeshadow palettes, or not eyeshadow palettes, eyes. So mascara, eyeliner, eyeshadow palettes, as well as setting spray, which is an odd combination, but the rest of the categories are really long, so I'm going to stick it with this one. First brand of palettes that I would obviously recommend is the Huda Beauty palette. I feel like she has just such, first of all, the packaging on all these is absolutely gorgeous. I believe these are the 3 that are currently available, and then her newest one, I think, are all still available, because they discontinued their palettes. So I have more than these, but these are the ones that I believe are still available. So this is Rose Quartz, which has a pinkyish purple hue with the neutrals as well. So this has a bit of pink, pops of purple, like that duochrome right there. And then obviously you have your more neutral tones. So this is more pinky neutral palette, if that's what you are on. Both the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. The Empowered, I believe, is the oldest, or maybe it's first grade. The Empowered palette is definitely the more, we're good. Is the more neutral palette with the pops of golds. Obviously you have your brown tones, your pops of golds, a little bit more of a cool-ish tone. It's not like fully cool tone, but you have like your blacks and your little more like grayish, hinting in gray. It's not quite cool tone, but it's has this like one little section where it kind of goes into that cool tone, but the majority of it is very warm tone with the pops of gold and a pop of purple. And maybe these are like more grayish purple tones, but these are such a really pretty palette. And then the final palette is the Pretty Gorgeous that I have, which is more on the cool tone. Obviously we still have our neutral palette, but then this section is definitely much more cool tone. So you have your perfect cool tone as well as warm tone, which I think makes this one the most perfect palette for you if you are on the hunt for either or color stories. This one I feel like you can get the most amount of use for it when it comes to the everyday looks. I will say the best time to get these palettes is during this Sephora sale because these are like $65. So if you have been on the hunt to want to try the Huda Beauty palettes, now is the perfect time to get it. Honestly, these palettes are super easy, blendable. The shimmers are gorgeous. I've loved Huda Beauty palettes since like 2018, so these are one of my go-to formulas. The other palette formula that I absolutely love and recommend is the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. These, again, I've loved these palettes since 2016, from the Modern Renaissance and on. So these, which I believe you could still get, I think that's the only original ABH palette you can get. So I believe these are all the palettes that are available on Sephora. I believe there's one more. I do have that palette as well. I just don't feel like looking for it right now. But it's like the one that has like the pinkish color store and has like 2 blushes in it. I don't remember the name, but that is also the palette. But I do want to show you these ones as well. So we have Soft Glam, which looks like this is the perfect neutral. This is the one that still comes with the eyeshadow. So like this is more like the Modern Renaissance vibe. So this is definitely like the more everyday neutral palette. This is perfect, I think, for the everyday makeup looks, you know. Then you have the Fall Romance palette, which is definitely more of the purple tone, green tone cool shade. I feel like this is really perfect for the fall. So you obviously have your pops of neutrals as well as your more purple tone and then your pops of green. So this is really pretty, I feel like, for the fall. And if you have brown eyes, I feel like this is a perfect color story. Then I have the Nouveau palette, which is the one I bought from. This was like 50% off at some point, but this is definitely this is more green, more purple. I feel like these two palettes are very similar in the vibe. I just feel like this is a lot more green and a lot more lighter. And I feel like this one packs a punch a bit more. So this one's definitely more of the green. You obviously have the pop of purple, but a much lighter purple than that one is. I think these two work really well together, but this is also a really lovely palette. If you want more shimmery version, the Rose Metals, which I feel like is a good addition if you already have your go-to neutrals, is this one. So this way, it's definitely more on the neutral shade, but then you have your really gorgeous metallic shades, and I think that's what makes this palette pop. Obviously, you have your basic mattes, and that's the one thing about ABH is they still have the same basic mattes, so you can still use this as an everyday palette, and I definitely think this gives more fall vibes. But then you have these like really gorgeous metallic shades that I think is what makes this palette stand out the most. And then if you want a little bit more color, the Cosmos palette is a great addition to your collection. Again, still has the neutral shades, but it definitely has those more like that pop, that duochrome. You have like this Sparkles Purple, this duochrome shimmer, this purple blue, these pinks. These kind of run a little bit more neutral-ish purple. They kind of look a little bit purple on camera. This one has like a little bit of purple hue. This is definitely the more colorful version of the current ABH palettes that are currently out. As for my go-to eyeliners, the Glossier one in black. I sometimes use the brown one, but sometimes I like to use this one to, you know, it's a really deep brown. So it's like deep brown, almost black. And then my go-to brown liner, if I want a little bit of a lighter shade, is the Rare Beauty True Brown Perfect Strokes Longwear Gel Liner. This is not the most pigmented one. Like, this is a lot more in your face. Like, this one is a lot more pigmented, as you can tell. I lost the cap, that's why. This is the Makeup by Mario, the blender cap. But this one is a lot, these two are a lot more. These two pack a punch. This is if you want a really smoky liner. Waterline color. This is really lovely if you want a little bit of a more light, neutral, you know. This does a really good job at like making my, anytime I want my brown eyes to pop, I wear this eyeliner. So that's my go-to eyeliners. Or my go-to lash primer is always going to be the, what is this called? I don't even know. You know, the one from Lancome. It's right here. Lancome Seals Booster XL. This is my go-to lash primer when it comes to any mascara that I want to, you know, be built a little bit more. As for my go-to actual mascara from Sephora, it's going to be the Legit Lashes from Huda Beauty every single time. This has both a volumizing side as well as a lengthening side. This works wonders. This makes your lashes look so good. It doesn't make the lashes fall. This is such a lovely mascara. As for setting spray, my go-to like hydrating one when I want to add a little bit of hydration back into the skin is always going to be the Rare Beauty Always an Optimist setting spray. It's really lovely. Hydrates the skin. It's also really nice even if you're not wearing any makeup. This will still like hydrate your skin. Nothing on the longevity. It's just really lovely to add glow back into your skin. As for long lasting, the Airbrush Flawless Finish setting spray will always be that girl. She is the best Charlotte Tilbury product in my opinion. Well, one of the best Tilbury products in my opinion. This is such a great setting spray. This will have your makeup lasting all day. The other really good one is obviously the Blender. You know, you cannot beat these two. Obviously, the one size also exists. I haven't tried the one size. I recently got it. So I have yet to try that. But as of right now, these two are my go-to setting sprays. This one if I want more hydration, and this one if I want just the more mattifying version of that. So these are lovely. These will have your makeup lasting all day and night. Hey guys, so these are my go-to recommendations for foundations as well as concealers. First thing I want to recommend is the Fenty Skin Easy Blur Drop Skin Tint. I cannot find this anywhere. It's somewhere in my beauty room, but this is the best skin tint in my opinion. It has good coverage, but it feels super light on the skin, and it's definitely a skin tint. So this is my go-to skin tint choice for the Sephora sale. I just don't know what I did with it. As for my other foundation recommendations for the Sephora sale, if you want a lighter, more natural not lighter, this definitely has coverage, a more natural glowy look on the skin that looks pretty much almost like you just perfected your skin, the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation is going to be your best friend. And this is expensive, so you know the Sephora sale is the best time to pick this one up. The other foundations I absolutely love is the Lancome Team Idol Ultra Wear. This one has much more coverage. It's kind of like a demi matte finish, but it's not like super full coverage. But this is super lovely on the skin. If you want a full coverage, more of a matte foundation, the new ABH foundation is definitely your go-to. The shade range is not, it's not great, but if you can find your shade, this is one of my favorite. This is my second favorite foundation. And then my absolute go-to foundation of all time is going to always be the House Labs foundation. The shade range is amazing. This is definitely glowy. So if you have oily skin, I don't know how much you're going to love this. This is also a foundation that I have to take breaks in between. That's why I said like I have a couple others that I really like, is because I have to take breaks in between wearing this, because this has the capability of breaking out because it is on the glowier side. Though there is also skincare ingredients in this, but this is the best foundation this Sephora has in my opinion. As for concealers, if I want a everyday concealer, the Kosas one's really lovely for these no makeup glam, more natural makeup days where you want to wear the lightest of coverage. Kosas is really lovely for that. It doesn't have the most pigment, but this is still a lovely concealer. You want to try the color corrector. I'm wondering if those two together, if this would create the perfect amount of coverage. So this is really lovely for those, you know, no makeup days. As for a like in between, not super matte, not super oily, the Huda Beauty has amazing coverage. It is a little bit more on the matte side. You know, even though it's called like glow, I don't know what this, like luminous matte. So it's definitely matte, but a little bit more, not like super drying though. So this is really lovely. A more matte concealer. Actually, I feel like ABH kind of is more, it's full coverage. This is really lovely as a concealer. I don't really know how the best way I would describe this one, but this is full coverage. And then my absolute go-to since 2018 is the Too Faced Born This Way Sculpting Concealer. This is the best concealer. If I had to pick one out of all the ones I just recommended, the Too Faced is always going to be my number one. And then these two are kind of like equal to, in my opinion. The next topic I want to discuss is powders. So I'm going to start with pressed powders because I only have 3. My go-to finishing powder is the Rare Beauty. So this is obviously the powder. You will go in with loose powder and then go on top of it with this one. This is super lovely, especially under the eyes. Again, it's a finishing powder. As for a baked setting powder, the Kosas Cloud Set is one of my favorites. The hype on this one is very much real. I only have the shade Breezy. I never tried one of the other shades, so this is the only one I actually know. And then the go-to, if you want perfected skin in a pressed powder, the Charlotte Tilbury is the way to go about it. The fact that I hit pan on it, I don't do that. I don't hit pan on makeup. So the fact that I actually hit pan on this tells you how much I absolutely love this powder. As for the best powder, I feel like for baking, the Huda Beauty will always take it. This is blurred perfection in a powder. I have so many shades. I also have the Ube Pay shade, and then I have another one of these. So this is obviously the old packaging, which I prefer. But this is the best powder for kneading a blur. I will tell you, this can be drying if you are not careful. So I would go in and hydrate yourself. So if you feel like this is too drying for you, a really good option also is the Makeup by Mario powder. I've never used this under the eyes. I've only used it to like bake. And this is super lovely for baking. And then the other go-to powder is the Ultra Peach shade from One Size. Honestly, you'll be happy with any of the 3 powders. The hype on all 3 of these is really, really low. And then as for a powder that I just like to brush across the whole entire skin, the Rare Beauty one is really lovely. Because this has a little bit of like, I guess it's like a little bit more luminous. I don't see the glue in it, but this is really lovely for putting all over the skin. I would not bake with this one, but this is really lovely for setting the skin all over. So this is my highlighter recommendations for the Sephora sale. I don't use a lot of like liquid or cream highlighters, but if I do, it's usually the Outshine or Transcend shades from the Rare Beauty liquid luminizers. These are really, really lovely. These create such a beautiful glow. You can set your makeup and the glow still seeps through, so this is super lovely on the skin. So this is my go-to. It's also really nice if you mix it, if you want to make your foundation a little bit more glowy. This is my go-to liquid highlighter. As for powder, it really is dependent on the day. I kind of swap it out with all these. The Too Faced Moon Crush highlighter is super pretty on the skin, but I will say this will emphasize your texture. I don't even know if this was the correct shade I meant to pick up. I have 2 shades of this. But this is really, really pretty, but I will say this will emphasize your texture. So be wary of that. But this is super blinding and glowy on the cheeks. Something that doesn't really do that, but it still has like the same level of glow that one does, is the Charlotte Tilbury highlighter. I will say that finding a shade that matches you, and this one is a little bit more difficult. I have a deeper shade and I have a lighter shade. And neither one of them are perfect for my skin, but this is super gorgeous on the skin. And it doesn't emphasize texture. So I would really recommend that if you have a lot of texture on the skin. Another one that I absolutely love that also doesn't emphasize texture is the Patrick Ta. I don't use the cream. Okay, so is it necessary? This is $40, so do with that what you will. If you're not going to use the cream, I don't really know how much it's worth it, but this is such a beautiful highlighter. And it, like, what I like about this is a pinky hue, but it's not like a blush. You know, like you don't have to, you can't, you know, it doesn't like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't appear too dark on the skin. This is super gorgeous and super blinding. So I don't know why everyone on the mother says this wasn't blinding, because I highly disagree. I think this is super blinding on the cheeks. Now, as for the ones I grab the most out of my makeup collection, the Dior Glitz palette is super pretty, super blinding. My go-to shades in this one is usually these two. You can tell. I kind of wanted the most with these two, but this is super gorgeous. I especially like to use these in the corner of the eyes, and I feel like this is super lovely. And then my absolute go-to, number 1 highlighter of all time, in my humbling opinion, is the Rare Beauty highlighter, which looks like this, which apparently I broke a little bit. I don't get, because I didn't drop it, so I'm confused. I wonder if something touched the highlighter. That's the one thing I would tell you about this highlighter. You have to be very careful because it shatters very easily. But it's still too pretty to care, in my opinion. So I still think it's so pretty, regardless of that. But you got to be careful with that fact that it can easily break. You know, but it's super gorgeous. But again, it shatters so easily. Something can touch it. Something hits it too hard and it will shatter. But that glow is absolutely gorgeous. So, I still think it's worth it. Despite that, because of how pretty that glow is. This is like my favorite makeup. This is my favorite highlighter of all time. If I'm being honest, if I like had to pick one, it would pick these two. But if I had to pick one over this one, I would pick this one. The only gripe I have is that shattering. So if you would want to avoid that, you're probably better off getting on this one, because I mean, you can build this one up. I would suggest spraying your face and then see, because this one's not as blinding. See, it's pretty, but it's not as, you know, of a boom as this one is. I think this color probably matches a bit more. That is a terrible swatch. See what I mean? Like, that's pretty, but that's even prettier. But again, these shatter so easily, so you have to be extra careful with that highlighter. And if I were to swatch, let me just, you know, swatch them all. I might as well. That's the patch. Okay, swatching it does not do this one justice, I feel like. Right here, actually. Doesn't do it justice. Again, see how blinding the Charlotte Tilbury is? Let me see, sure. The Rare Beauty one is... Yeah, I'm going to swatch the Moon Crush. Actually, I think this one is similar to the Rare Beauty. Yeah, see, that has the similar. But again, this is more texture. This doesn't emphasize texture, but this one does. It's a little bit chunkier, yeah, as you could tell. And then the Charlotte Tilbury one. This also moves. Yeah, see, that has a little, that's probably the closest to the Rare Beauty. That's probably the closest in pigment, and this doesn't shatter as easily, so, you know, do with that what you will. So the next category we're going to discuss is bronzer. My first, so we're going to recommend creams first. My first go-to bronzer is the Say Sun Mel. This is really perfect for those, like, more natural, glowy days. I feel like this is that perfect look if you're going for a glowy, natural look. If you don't want glowy, I would set this, but this is really lovely as for those more natural days. If I want a little bit more matte, a little bit more pigment, I will always go in with the Rare Beauty sculpted bronzer. This is super blendable, super easy to blend out. It literally blends itself. You put it on the skin and it blends out so easily. It's so lovely on the skin. So this is my, if I had to pick one between the other, again, this is for my more glamour days. If I want something a little bit more matte, something will last a little bit better on the skin, I will go for this one. If I want a more natural everyday makeup, I will go in for with the Sun Melt. If I'm looking for something a little bit more contour-esque or something I just like a one and go, if you want 2-in-1, the Patrick Ta Major Dimension, the Cream Contour and Powder Duo is the best option for that. This is definitely on the more cool tone. I feel like I should have gone one shade deeper than that. That's my own fault though. But this is really lovely if you want a contour as well as a powder bronzer. So this is really perfect if you want the 2-in-1, and this is like about $40. So the perfect time to get this is during the Sephora sale. As for powder bronzer, these are kind of my 4 go-tos. I just kind of swap them out depending on the day. Obviously, they're all kind of the same. You know, powder bronzer is powder bronzer. I feel like you really can't, you know, it's very hard to mess up a powder bronzer. But if I was to go for a powder bronzer, these are my go-tos. So if I want a more neutral, the perfect, like, no think about a bronzer, perfect, like, natural bronzer, I will always go in with the Dior. It's super lovely. This creates a more natural look on the skin. And the packaging is my favorite out of all of these. If I'm going more glam, my go-to bronzer is the Fenty one. Again, that neutral shade, it's perfect. They basically are the same shade. This is super blendable, super easy to use, and they all blend like butter. If I want a bronzer, I don't even want to think about, I could basically blend my eyes closed. I'm going to go in with the Makeup by Mario bronzer. I feel like this is super lovely, super easy to blend in. Can't go wrong. I feel like you can't go overboard with this one. And then if I want a little bit more of like a glowier bronzer, the House Labs is probably the best option for that, like, more glowy. I do believe they discontinued and brought it back for some, I don't know what they changed. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same formulation, exact same packaging. They didn't even shrink it, so I don't know why they took it away, but this is super lovely. And this is, if I were to say which one I grabbed the most, this one has been the one I grabbed the most out of all my cream bronzers, out of all my powder bronzers. So let's talk about blush. Blush is my biggest, it's not even all of them. Blush is the biggest category besides lips, so let's just get into it. I'm going to start with blush toppers because it's the smallest category. The Rare Beauty, what are these even called? These called the powder blushes? Soft Pinch Luminous Powder Blushes are two of my go-to. I'm about to say something right now. These will emphasize your texture, but they're too pretty to care. They're literally like the blush and the highlighter combined. They like took the blush colors. These, I would definitely put these over the blushes. I would definitely have a blush underneath, but these are super gorgeous, super glowy. They are metallic, basically. They are super gorgeous on the skin, but they will emphasize your texture. So, and they are also as fragile as the highlighters. So I'd be careful with these. My other go-to blush highlighter, technically this is not a highlighter, but I use this as a blush topper, which is this one, this beautiful rose quartz blush highlighter. I use it as a blush topper from House Labs. It's super gorgeous. Swatch it for you. That's a terrible swatch. So it's super gorgeous as a blush topper on the skin. As for cream blush, now let's get into the topic of cream blush. So I have several of the Tower 28 cream blushes, so I just picked that one for the heck of it. So these are really, really pretty. They're definitely the most lightest coverage of blushes. This is really good for the clean girl aesthetic, the no makeup look, and it is glowy. So that also means these will leave your skin sticky. So I will set it if I were you, but these are these are pretty, but these are like the least coverage blushes that are cream that I have in my collection, I believe. They have some people. I feel like you can build it up, but these are definitely on the clean girl aesthetic, you know. Something else that has like, it has more pigment but still has that like really nice glow is the Say Beauty Dew Blushes. These are glowy and these definitely pack a punch, but these are super pretty. They're not like super blinding, but they are more pigmented than Tower 28, and they are super glowy on the skin. And they're not sticky though. Speaking of blushes for the clean girl aesthetic, the House Labs, what are these called? The Flush Glassy Blush Bombs. These are exactly what the name intends. These are see-through blushes, but they are pigmented. They are just as glowy, if not more glowy than the Say Beauty, but they have they're very pigmented, but you can see through. You know what I mean? It's like this like see-through, you know. And these still look super beautiful under the skin, over the skin. You could also use these on your lips, which I think is what makes these super versatile. And these are perfect for the clean girl aesthetic. The blush that I would say is a little bit more pigmented than those that don't have that see-through aesthetic, but has that level of pigment, is the Charlotte Tilbury matte beauty blush ones. I don't think these are matte. These are definitely still glowy. These are like the semi-glowy. But these are definitely have more pig. These are more matte in the sense of like, They don't appear as glowy, but they're not super matte either. They're kind of like that in between. Now, something that has that pigment but is also glowy is the Huda Beauty cream blushes. These have quickly become like a top 3 blush for me. They smell so delicious too, and the shade range is super beautiful. So these are super lovely to have added to your collection. And I'm never gonna do a Sephora sale recommendation without recommending the Rare Beauty blushes. I have the entire collection. I just chose 2 random ones for my collection. Encourage and Believe are 2 of my go-tos. I love this blush collection, and I love how inclusive this blush range is. And these will pack a punch. These will last you the whole day. These are super gorgeous. They are glowy. Some of them are glowy, some of them are matte. These are perfect for mixing together. These are pigmented. These will last all day. These are the best matte liquid blushes that you could find. These are the best liquid blushes you could find in the market, with the Huda Beauty being a close second. Now let's talk powder blushes, which we have a lot to get through. If you are on the hunt for a glowy baked blush, the Kosas blushes is going to be your best friend. They are the blushes life blushes because you're so gorgeous on the skin. They are glowy, but they're not too shimmery. You know, they don't overemphasize texture. The shade range is god awful though. So if you can find a shade that will go on your skin, these are really nice. They need to work on the shade range though, because like I'm a tan complexion. I'm not even that dark, and I can't. It took me 7 tries to find a blush that actually shows up on my skin tone, and there's only one shade that is darker than this one. So shade range, gotta go. But these are lovely blushes, regardless of that. The Kosas seriously do better. Extend the shade range. Another blush that isn't as glowy but is super pretty is the Armani, what is this even called? The Armani Luminous Silk Glow blushes. Again, they're glowy, but they're super pretty on the skin. They don't overemphasize texture, but they are that in between. You know, they have a little bit of glow to them. You could kind of see the glow a little bit in the camera. Blush trio that I feel like is really great and worth the money is this one. You know, you have your cream, your powder, and your shimmery blush. So I feel like this is perfect if you are on the hunt for that like trio. This is a lovely blush, but it's still a nice option to have. I feel like underrated blush that's matte is the Makeup by Mario soft plush butter powder blush. No one talks about these, but these are super pink. These are like blinding. These are pigmented. These you have to be very careful. One dot on the chin will be like basically, you know how pigmented Rare Beauty blushes are? That's this in a powder form. So these are super beautiful though, and they're not talked about enough, but these are super lovely. Another really underrated blush that I feel like is not talked about enough, like everyone raves about Charlotte Tilbury, but they do not talk about the powder blushes. These are super gorgeous. They're not too glowy, but they're not too matte. They're kind of that in-between shade, and I want to show you all the ones I have. I'm just going to show you the names. I'm not going to read them because, you know, this is my favorite shade. So it has that like really bright pink, and then the outside is a little bit more glowy. Then I have the shade Pillow Talk, which looks like this. That is the next shade. I'm not going to read that one, but it looks like this. And that is the last shade. Again, I'm not going to read that, but that's what it looks like. This is much more on the pale side, but like I feel like the pigment in this kind of like is it out. So like these are really pretty because they're not, because the middle part is matte and the outside is a little bit glowy. These are the like perfect in between where it's not too shimmery and not too matte. Another really lovely matte option is the Color Fused blushes from House Labs. I think this is House Labs' best product, but you have to be careful because these are pigmented. So this is the shade Hibiscus Haze, and then this is the shade French Rosette. These are pigmented, so you have to be very careful. Go in with the lightest of hands, but these are some of the best blushes you could find at Sephora. They are pigmented, they are easy to blend, they are matte, they are gorgeous, and they are a bit up there in price, so the best time to get them I think is during the Sephora sale. The last blush I'm going to recommend is probably my go-to favorite blush right now, and it is the new Rare Beauty matte bouncy blushes. These create such a blurred effect on the skin. They're not as pigmented as the liquid blushes or really any of the other blushes. These are blushes that you will need to build. If you want, the more you build up, the more pigmented they get. They create such a beautiful blurred effect on the cheeks. And I think, honestly, these are probably Rare Beauty blush brushes. Like, they beat the liquid blushes for me, which I never thought would happen. But these are easily one of Rare Beauty's best launches to date. So these are the 3 shades I have. So I have Hope, Happy, and Grateful. And I high-key want more. I want all 7, which is ridiculous. I don't need any more blush, but this is my favorite blush formula. It creates a blurred effect on the skin. It's a cream blush. It has the weirdest texture, but it's supposed to be cream to powder. Basically, it has a cream feeling when you set on the skin. It looks matte. It sets down matte. It's not super drying matte, so it's not patchy. It's blurred. Like this, if you want blurred cheeks, this will be your best friend. Especially if you have texture on the cheeks, these will be your best friend. This is Rare Beauty's best launch. The last category is lip products. I have a lot, so I'm going to start with lip prep. My go-to lip prep products are the Summer Fridays lip balm, specifically in the vanilla beige, as well as the Laneige lip glow sleeping mask. The other one I love is the Jisoo, but I have the old formulation. I don't have the new one, so those are my go-to ones from Sephora. I have others that are not from Sephora, so those are my go-tos from Sephora. I think I'm going to do lip liners next. I have a bunch, so I'm going to start with the ones that I have like one off of, well, not one off, but like so I have several of the Tower 28, but the Tower 28 one liners is really lovely for, again, the no makeup days, and I feel like that's really is what Tower 28 is about. Really good for those, this is going to be one thing I have to reply, but it's super lovely on the lips. The Makeup by Mario is really nice. This one's really long lasting. It has the little brush tip on the end, and it's super lovely. The Huda Beauty is also really, really great. It is more long lasting than obviously Tower 28, but it has really nice stay. Super creamy. The best one from Sephora, in my opinion, the one that lasts the most, it is creamy. But once it sits down, that's it. It's not going to budge. It's the Fenty Beauty lip liner. I have the shade Rubber Bands. I really want to pick up more. So this is my favorite. Absolutely. If I had to pick one from Sephora, this would be my go-to when it comes to long lastingness. The ones that I feel like are really good for like multi-use is the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencils. I don't have the long lasting ones. I just have these. I have another shade that's like a beige. But these are really lovely because you use these as lip liners, eyeliners. You use them on cheek. You literally use this as literally anywhere. So these are really lovely. Again, they don't last the longest, but they are super nice. My go-to lip liners, if I want something that's a bit more creamy, doesn't need to last the whole day, but just looks really pretty and has a really great shade range when it comes to nudes, is the Rare Beauty Kind Words lip liners. My absolute favorite go-to shade is the shade Wise. So like if I had to pick one shade out of all of them, it would be Wise. But these are all really, really lovely, and I really love the shade range. Another lip liner formula that I absolutely love when it comes to lip combos as well as the shade range is the ABH lip liners. These last really, really well. They don't last as long as the Fenty, but these are really lovely, and they last a decent amount of times. And they are really creamy, and they're perfect for lip combos. My other really great long-lasting lip liner is the Charlotte Tilbury. These are 3 of the shades that I have, and this is a super lovely liner as well. Now onto the category of lipstick. I'm going to start with the Natasha Denona My Dream lipstick. This is the perfect lipstick for like a nude moment. This is probably the palest nude that I own, but I really do love this. This is super pretty on the lips. Another really lovely lipstick is the ABH ones. These are really lovely cream lipsticks. I have them actually cream and matte, so I'm going to show you the shades that I have. So we have the shade Blush Brown, which is a matte lipstick. Taupe Beige, which is a satin lipstick. Another satin lipstick, which is Warm Peach. Another satin in the shade Soft Brown. And one last satin lipstick in the shade Rose Brown. Another really lovely cream formula is the Rare Beauty... What are these called? These are supposed to be matte lipsticks. I feel like they have that like in between. They're not too matte and they're not too glowy, but these are really, really lovely. I'll show you some of the shades. Bold, which looks like a more red-toned nude, like a brick. Wise, which I feel like is the perfect neutral brown. Talented, which is a little bit more of a pale brown. Gifted, which is much more like red-toned. Humble, which is an even paler nude. Lively, which is like a peachy nude. And Strong, which is like a purple tone nude. More purple. It's very bold. The last like bullet lipstick that I have a recommendation for is the Pillow Talk lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury. I have several of these. I just picked one and recommended it. But I really love this formula. If you want like this is basically like a combination of the Fenty lipstick with the Fenty gloss bombs, and this is the, what are these called? The gloss bomb sticks. And this is in the shade Fenty Glow. This is the only one I have, but it's really lovely, really hydrating. It is very melty, as you can see, but this is really lovely, and it smells really good. As for glosses, the Tower 28 glosses are not sticky, but they are really, really lovely. They're like this, they hydrate the lips really, really nicely, and they're just a lovely formula of gloss. A lip gloss that kind of creates more of a blurred effect on the lips is the Huda Beauty Faux Filter glosses. These are really also really lovely. I do have the palest and the darker shade. I think some of them are a bit better at doing that, but these are really lovely. If you want a lip gloss that is more lip balm feeling, the Rare Beauty ones are super lovely. These are probably the most underrated product from Rare Beauty. These are so lovely. They hydrate the lips, and they feel basically like a lip balm, but they have the tint of a gloss, and they're really, really nice. There's one more shade I do own it. I don't know what it is. It's like usually rose or petal or something like that. But these are really, really lovely, and a very underrated product from Rare Beauty. You all should really check these out. And the last product I'm going to recommend is the Fenty Gloss Bombs. I thought I picked out one from each shade, like each form. I forgot to get the heat version, but that one's more plumping. And then you have the cream, which has a little bit more pigment. The glowy ones, which, you know, are your basic glittery glosses. These are really nice. They do need to be reapplied throughout the day, but these are probably still, like, Fenty. Brianna knew what she was doing when it came to this. And then the lip oil has it's kind of the in-between the cream and the gloss. It has a little bit more pigment. It's very shimmery. It's very hydrating. The formula is different than this, but it feels like a typical oil, but it's really much more hydrating. And I really recommend these. And they are coming out with new shades soon. So the first time to get them is during this Sephora sale. So yeah, those are all my Sephora recommendations. Obviously, you don't have to pick up everything, but, you know, I just wanted to give you a good array of options in case you were on the hunt and you want a review or something, you know. If you have questions, just let me know.